Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of the Gero-Juice Podcast with your host, Adrianne D Jones. I'm so excited for today's interview, super excited. We're talking about ageism today. And what is it? How can we address ageism in the most effective, creative way possible? And that brings me to my guest today. We have LaPorte and Jordan Evans, both co-founders of Art Against Ageism. It's a nonprofit organization that leverages art and creativity to combat ageism. So welcome, Meg and Jordan, to the Gero-Juice. How are you both?
Thank you. We're doing very well. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And where are you guys today? How is the weather? That's what I really want to ask. Atlanta is cold. It's cold to me for it to be May.
Cold and rainy.
Really?
Cold and rainy here. I'm in DC and it's cold and
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Okay.
We pretty much share the same weather, although sometimes there's like a cloud over her, not a cloud over me, but we are about an hour away from each other.
Okay, so it's similar here, Atlanta. We're experiencing the same thing. So anyway, I can't wait for it to warm up, but we're not going to waste any more time. Like I said, I'm excited to hear you all's stories. So that's my first question. I want to know about your history. Give us the history on Art Against Ageism, and what was the point you both were like, hey, this could be something huge?
Well, it's a pretty funny story. I think it's best to let Meg start since her story starts before mine picks up.
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. Let's go back about, 8 years or so or something. And I had recently graduated from the master's program at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Erickson School on the study of aging. And I was doing a project in which I had fashioned it after something called Humans of New York. I had been really obsessed with are you aware of Humans of New York?
I love Humans of New York.
Yeah, I loved it so much. And so I really wanted to do something that was about older adults because I wanted to focus on older adults, but make it like Humans of New York. So I just utilized the network that I had at the time to go to senior centers, senior living communities, CCRCs, nursing homes, and interviewed people in who were living there and working there too, actually, and asked them a set of questions. I just came up with a set of questions that would help elicit stories because I really wanted to use the imagery and the storytelling to help change people's perspectives about what it was like to be older, what it was, what older adults were like, what their lives were like. And one of the questions I actually always asked was, do you wish you were younger? And at the time I was probably, I guess I was in my early 50s, and maybe I was a little younger than that actually. And I thought I would hear from people that they always wish they were younger, but it turned out that 98 or 99% of the people responded, nope, I don't wish I was younger. I am so happy where I am. And for me, that was really sort of a revelation. And now that I'm older, I understand it because I don't necessarily wish I was younger. So I feel good about where I am. Anyway, so after I had done that, and one of the people I interviewed for this project, by the way, which was called Age in America, was the dean of the school of the program at the Erickson School. And he said to me after that, why don't you teach a course about this? And I thought, okay, sure, I'll teach a class about it. It was an undergraduate class. And so I had to come up with the syllabus for it. And I decided to call it leverage something like utilizing art or creativity to change perspectives about aging or ageism. And so I taught the course and I had a total of 4 students.
And I was one of those 4 students. So insert me, a junior in undergrad. Okay. I so often in the space of aging or even aging services, I mean, people say I fell into this, and I did not fall into this. I went to school for it, and since all my adult life I've kind of done this. And so I saw this course that was so interesting around art and creativity, and I'm an artist myself. And so I said, oh, this is interesting. And I didn't know there were going to be only 3 other students in the class, but I really loved the idea of using art and creativity to talk about some things that are really uncomfortable, even in aging itself, even in the experience of aging. But aging itself is an uncomfortable topic. So using art and creativity to have these conversations. And so we finished the class, and I think I've maintained a friendship with Meg continuing from there, went on to start my career in aging services. And I think it was COVID, which really got us talking more about perceptions of aging and perceptions of older adults. And I think COVID really showed our ageism as a society when things like #BoomerRemover were trending around COVID, and the systemic ageism of not prioritizing resources and other tools for infection prevention and infection control being sent to facilities and communities that serve older adults. It's a huge problem. And so we talked, and they said, well, why don't we make the class an organization? Why don't we create a thing and work with communities to leverage art to combat ageism? And Meg saying this to me, I said, I don't think anyone's gonna pay for that. And so I said, I reluctantly, we started on this journey together, and so far it has been, I've been eating my words every day. People love what we do, and we've been well received in aging services and outside of aging services.
So I think we need to answer the question, which was, when did we think it was something, right?
Yeah.
And I think I don't know that we think it's something yet. I think it's something, right? And I know you said you're eating. It's also, by the way, very interesting that Jordan says he eats his words every day because he wasn't really sure about it from the start. I assumed he was, and honestly, and I don't think I've ever told you this, Jordan, but I don't think I could have done it without him. His support was really helpful to me in feeling like we could do this. I really, for us to be in it together was really important. I think really pivotal, at least for me, in getting it off the ground. So even if you didn't necessarily believe in it, I'm so glad that you at least acted like you did.
That's funny.
It's funny, we started this as 2 friends who were starting on an endeavor together, and it was fun, and it never stopped being fun. I think that's the best thing about entrepreneurship, is when you're doing it and having fun, that's what drives you to keep doing it, because they're not making any money. So we gotta be doing this for fun. And I think the moment it floored me that we were doing this and this is something, was we were a few years in, and we were at a conference where we had our Own Your Age photo booth. And this is probably our 3rd iteration of this Own Your Age photo booth, but it came together so well, and people just had so much joy around it that it really, I said, oh, people enjoy this. People enjoy, I mean, we started at a long-term care community here in Baltimore, with a pilot program, and an Aging is Living tree based on Yoko Ono's Peace Tree. But even in that moment, it was a pilot. We were testing out our ideas, but for us to be brought to a place in order to create it based on our ideas was amazing. And I also had to say, you probably believe this, Meg. Our first mural was probably the first time we're so impressed with ourselves.
Right.
It was just it was great to see that happen. Yeah, to be like, wow, someone actually believed in it like we did, and it's to see that happen was actually amazing. Though I would take us back a little bit to a year after, like the trees, Leading Age National. Somehow we got connected to Leading Age National, and they asked us to bring the Aging is Living trees to their conference in 2022 in Denver.
Okay.
Right? 22 or 20? Yeah, it was 2022. And that was, to me, a big deal. That was like, wow, Leading Age to have our art there, our interactive art. And then the year after that was the photo booth, when the photo booth became really the best iteration, I think.
I love it.
So
I love it. And what I'm really speaking to is I love the photo booth. And so when I come to ASA now, I'm kind of looking forward to the photo booth and kind of like comparing what was I looking like last year to my new age this year. But you all have such an amazing story. It's a very unique story, as well as a unique partnership. And that leads me to my next question. From your perspective, what makes your partnership unique besides, the difference in age, ethnicity, and how have your differences been beneficial in carrying out your mission?
that's such a good question.
And bounce off of each other. Like I'm loving this.
I would say that, well, I would say that we both consider ourselves artists. We're very different sort of art. I'm more into the art, drawing and painting and that sort of thing. And I'm obsessed with visual art. Jordan is a dancer and a singer. And so it's a different kind of art, obviously, than the visual art. Sure. And I think those perspectives coming together have really helped to create some good ideas and help flesh out good ideas. I think we just both have our brains think a little bit differently. And when our ideas come together, I think that when we, when we brainstorm with each other, with other folks, that there's a complement there between the way that we think about things. Would you agree with that, Jordan?
I would. I mean, I feel like this is radio, so people can't see what we look like. So I'm a Black man. She's a Jewish woman. She lives in DC. I live in Baltimore. We're 30 years apart.
So actually people will see what you look like.
Oh, wonderful. Then let me crimp a little bit.
So, there is a radio part of Gero-Juice and there's a podcast part of Gero-Juice. So for
those of you listening in,
right.
We are like two very different people. From
I need to clarify something.
Spaces.
Okay.
I'm going to clarify something. Jordan referred to me as a Jewish woman. I do, because my religion is Judaism. Converted, so my ethnicity is not Judaism, but I did religion. So I don't want people to think that I feel like it should be clarified. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a great clarification. But I grew up in the country. She grew up in the city. Like we have just two. Well, you didn't grow up in the city, but you didn't grow up like in the. Oh, you grew up in Michigan. That's right. So
I grew up in a little town. I mean, I was born in
What part of Michigan?
I was born in Detroit, and we lived there till I was 6. Then we moved to a. I think we talked about. I feel like we talked about this, Adrian. That maybe you have a great connection. I think.
Yeah.
And then I grew up in this little town north of Detroit. And then as soon as I graduated college, I went to college in Michigan. I moved to DC, and I've been in the DC area ever since. So,
cool thing about me, I love people from Detroit.
Oh,
they're always so easy to work with. Like it's just a cool breeze. So I love it.
I'll agree with that. I've only worked with one person from Detroit, and that's Meg. But it's so funny thinking about our differences there were more immediate differences. And it's like in the time of like DEI, I think this is really fascinating to think about because our age difference was not the immediate thing to us.
Okay.
I mean, we just noticed that we are 30 years. So I'm 28, Meg's 50. We didn't notice we were presenting somewhere, and I just happened to say out loud, "We are 30 years apart." And we both looked at each other, was like, "Oh yeah, we're 30 years apart." Like I mean, just like the things that happened between 3 decades, between the two. But I think from my perspective, I think it's awesome to have Meg, especially when this work of ageism, because ageism and intersectionality so often does affect women than men. There are things that I don't notice, and I so value her saying, "That's ageist." And I'm like, I didn't even come to my mind to think that that's ageist, because I think that that's just sexist. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's just sexist. It's not intersection of the two. But then I'm always like, young people experience ageism too. And I only notice I experience it because I know about it. But then you start talking to young people, and then they realize that someone overlooking you because you're young is not just a part of life. And so we've become the dynamic duo. I don't know.
You can see it between you guys. Like when I see you all, I start smiling because it's like, okay, what's going on now? It's always like you all are so refreshing to see together. Like when I see you at a conference, what I'm speaking of, but it's just a refreshing feeling because it defies what society has kind of embedded on what a partnership should look like, or on what a initiative should look like. It doesn't. I'm like the type of person that likes to draw outside of the lines. And so, when I'm like, draw outside the lines, let's see where this ends up. Of course it's going to be beautiful. And I just have that expectation. So when I see you all as a pair, I'm like, they are so outside of the lines. And I love it. If that makes sense, but
we are
love
pretty outside of the lines.
Yeah.
I think it challenges us to also grow. We don't always agree. Majority of the time we agree, but we don't always agree. And I think it's awesome to choose, this idea of diversity. And neither of us looked for a person to start an organization with that looked like either one of us, or even just like intentionally looked for diversity. We focused on what our dreams were, and that has been our grounding. Even when we disagree on things, we go back to our mission. And we're like, okay, let's stay on the mission.
Sure. I love it. And so I was looking at your website, and I'm like, there's so many great things to talk about, but I was looking at, like your initiative, your mission, your initiative. And one thing that stuck out to me is this right here, saying that Art Against Ageism exists not only to identify and amplify actions that tackle damaging stereotypes about age and aging in creative ways, but also to help others create their own campaigns that seek to raise awareness of and dismantle ageism. So that led me to the mural at AG Rhodes here in Atlanta. And listen, if y'all haven't seen it, and most of you probably haven't, if you're catching this, from California or, the West Coast somewhere, but when you come to Atlanta, is it still up? I haven't been that way in a minute.
They took it down.
They took it down.
The great thing about this mural is it's biodegradable. So it's a temporary mural.
Okay.
And it's intentionally biodegradable because we want whatever we create for the community to be intentional, but we also want this the idea of it being temporary. We want it to drive the want to have something permanent, because it became something permanent where there was no idea of even something being on the wall. So like the cool thing about this Atlanta campus is this vibrant, awesome community that has been in Atlanta for over 120 years. It's been so it's been that long in this community, and surrounding this Atlanta campus of AG Roads is this long wall that runs along Boulevard. You can't see the inside of the community from the outside of that wall. And so when we were talking about with their amazing leader and all of their leadership teams, so Deke said, hey, we want to do something with our anniversary coming up. What do you think about doing? And we said, we just want to bring inside of this awesome community out. And it was inspired by a project called Inside Out. And we actually worked with the Inside Out project to do one in Atlanta, and have further since done other ones on our own.
Cool. But like I said, I love it. I know it was cool for the community, bringing just a different form of life back. I used to live there. That's one thing I shared with Deke. I didn't live there, but I used to live on the other side of AG Roads, right when I graduated college. Walked past there, going to the bus stop. I didn't have a car at the time, so I passed it literally every day. And I've never seen, art on that wall. But, that project was special to me because I had never seen, anything on that wall except for the color that it is. But glad you were able to bring life back over there. Now, I want to shift to, your challenges. You're doing amazing work. I knew you're doing amazing work. Everybody that you work with knows that. But I know, even in doing things that are great, there are challenges. So what have been some of the challenges you've experienced with art and ageism?
I would say that I'm sure that this won't be a surprise, probably money and budgets, right? With organizations, not just ours, but like reaching out to organizations and wanting to do a permanent mural. That's a challenge that we have yet to overcome. We really want to create a permanent mural that illustrates the positive beliefs of aging, right? So that might be something that would be portraits and text together, but it would be much more permanent than what we did at AG Roads and the other one at Forest Hills. That has been a challenge to us, to find somebody who would say, yes, please come and do this permanent mural with us. And again, part of that has to do with money. And I think the other part of it is, I think there's trepidation around a permanent mural. I think because some people, there are regulations in some cities around creating a mural, and then you have to get permission from all of your neighbors, that kind of thing. I think that's the case in Baltimore, and it may be the case elsewhere. And then the cost of it too. So that's one thing that I think has been our challenge, and what our vision is to create permanent murals. What would you say, Jordan?
I think that's it. What you said. It's money, budget, and perceptions of what should be. I think most of us have this idea of what senior living communities look like. I mean, even the idea of them being communities, most of us have an idea of what senior living facilities look like. And they look like facilities. They imagine them, they look like hospitals. So the perception, the idea that we would make this building look like a building where life happens isn't common, and really isn't just it isn't part of what we think should be there. And so thus it is a challenge to even think about the idea of, oh yeah, let's have our building look vibrant. Libraries always are. People are more and more thinking about libraries should look like part of the community, and schools the same. We just haven't, it's our own ageist perceptions of where we believe life and learning, and life and learning should also be portrayed on the walls of the
Right.
faith.
I think also, we do there are we've had other initiatives where we've worked with communities where we've had the
Mm-hmm.
Living Tree, we did a dramatic play workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've had so I would say that some other challenges are that there are senior living communities and other similar entities that I think are afraid to address ageism as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an ism. So I think that ism, there's a negativity associated with an ism, right? With all isms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is this fear that it's something negative, when in fact what we do really is about making it a positive, and sort of the art and the creativity helps to sort of lubricate you into something that can be positive and advance positive perceptions of aging, as opposed to this negative, oh, it's just an ism and we have to fight, sort of thing, right? So
right.
And we have to fight. That's what we're about. But the art of it is so, like the art and the artistic activism, which I know we haven't talked that much about that, but that's a huge part of what we do. We utilize artistic activism. And before we founded the organization, Jordan and I did we studied the concept of artistic activism as well, so that we talk about it in our presentations, and it's very much a part of it's like really in the fabric of what we do is artistic activism. So
okay, I don't think I've heard of that, artistic activism. I like that.
You've
Now I want to.
It's not you've definitely seen it. Artistic activism is the tool of every movement, every, from civil rights to women's rights to it is the bedrock of any movement, is to affectively move people. It's affective effect. So it is, I mean, because if you think about it, like, no one changes their mind.
Right.
Vision?
Right.
Like, no one reads a list of names on a list and says, oh, well, all of these people agree with this thing, so maybe I should. No one looks at a fact sheet and sees percentages and pie charts and says, oh, this. No, people watch movies. People watch art. People watch Sarah McLachlan commercials for the ASPC and hear In the Arms of an Angel and think about adopting and not shopping. I mean, it is that's been like my number one example recently, is that commercial. And I don't see it anymore, but that used to be my favorite thing. It's like I used to cry every time I saw little dogs hearing In the Arms of an Angel. And
that's like on TikTok, right? In the Arms of an Angel. I see it, like it attached, the song attached to like so many different like funny videos or memes. Really? Yeah, like one that comes to mind is like one of the social media influencers, and her grandfather gives her a dog, and the dog is kind of wonky, looks like he might be on his way out, and so when she's hugging him and interacting, In the Arms of an Angel is always playing, but it's meant to be funny, but yeah, that's where the song resonates with me, because I've seen it recently.
Yeah, that commercial used to run like everywhere. But that's affect. That is people seeing things and thinking about happy feet, other ways that we subliminal. Meg, help me. Yes, that word. Put messages to change minds, or literally and in your face, and put things that make you feel angry, happy, sad, and then that effectively changes minds. And that's what we're trying to do with ageism.
Sure. I want to ask you about dream partnerships. Like, who have not you worked with that you would like to work with in the future?
That's a good question.
Yes, that is a very good question.
Any dream, like you were talking about the murals and permanent murals. Like, where would you like to see one of those?
Oh, so yeah, one of those murals. I would love to see, well, I would love to see more quantity. I would love to see murals on many nursing home on the walls of many nursing homes, right?
Okay.
So many. So for example, there's one dream nursing home that we're trying to get this to happen. And this is in New York City. This nursing home happens to be on an island in New York City. And we think it would be fabulous to have it because it would draw a lot of attention to the island, to the people in the city, because there are so many people and so many eyes in the city. I think that would be fantastic. I think it would be great to work with an organization that is another national organization that is really dedicated to improving the lives of older adults. We have worked with ASA. Obviously, that's been great. That's been fantastic working with American Society on Aging. We haven't really worked with AARP. I think that would be probably a good. I think partnering with an organization that has a lot of cachet in sort of the gestalt of aging services or Ageland would be great. Not just in the sort of provider. We have worked with Leading Age, which has been fantastic, but the larger ones, other larger ones too, would be great, I think.
Okay, cool. Jordan, any
Cachet and
ideas?
Gestalt is great, but I would love if they just had some cash. I dream about like working with large systems, be it a health system or be it a museum, or doing something around. My biggest thing is I just dream that people will care about ageism more.
Sure.
We have there's often other isms that get prioritized, which makes sense given the history with others, especially in our American context. But then I also love to talk about like the intersectionality of those and see things like us celebrating each other for wherever we are at in our life, on the National Mall, or doing something in creating an old people are cool plaza, or all people are cool, not all lives.
I would say aging is living plaza, not that old people aren't
Aging
cool.
is living
I
plaza.
admire the old people are cool initiative.
I think that like it would be so cool to have someone like a large figure really care about ageism. And there are large figures that care about ageism, like there are shows like Grace and Frankie with Fonda, and Jane Fonda is a huge advocate against ageism, and so it's really making traction. So I think right now is a great time to be in it. So we're just continuing to do the work and see what happens next.
Cool. When I think about it, I think about speaking of Delta, I think about a partnership like that, like out of the drawing outside of the lines again, like partnership with the airline, and it could be displayed somewhere. Atlanta's the hub, so we're Delta saturated. I don't have a problem with that. I'm a Sky Miles member, but we're Delta saturated, so maybe like an airplane or something. That's just what comes to mind. So
I think that is a fabulous, I love that idea. And you know what? Airports are great hubs for art. There's a lot of public art. I just went on vacation and went through a bunch of airports and saw some really cool public art. And I see them every time I travel. O'Hare actually has a really cool display. I think it might be World War II veterans, a photographer taking photos and has the stories of some World War II veterans in part of its airport. But something like that would be really just focused on maybe older adults, or maybe it's intergenerational too.
Yeah.
It's where it's sort of tells the story of the really fabulous relationships and how intergenerational relationships can help tackle ageism or something through graphical design or photo
Sure.
like that. I think that would be great.
Sure. And like you said, Jordan, now's the time. I'm sorry, go ahead, Meg.
No, I think that's a great idea. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, I see art, like you said, in the airport all the time. They have this, I don't know if you've been to Atlanta's airport and getting on the train and walking between, terminals. It's this whole thing. It almost looks like you are in a museum or the aquarium. I don't know how to explain it, but no, now is the time for something like this, because like when I'm traveling, I see almost like an influx of senior travelers. I know I was leaving a smaller airport to come to Atlanta, and they had, I kid you not, they had about 10 people in wheelchairs, older people in wheelchairs that need to be, situated on the plane. And they did not have enough people to push the wheelchairs. They only had 2 people that had to keep coming back and running back and running back. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, can I help? I want to say, do y'all need help? But, it's just evident, like you're seeing so many things, caregivers traveling, people with dementia traveling. So now is a good time and a good space to kind of move forward with something cool. And then in 5 years, that was my next question. Where do you all see yourself in 5 years? Art Against Ageism, like your own plane, this artsy plane flying across the friendly skies. Like, what is it?
Well, we have talked about a van, really, or a bus, taking a bus around the country and going to different communities to create art that tackles ageism and advances positive beliefs of aging. I would say that in 5 years, I would like to see us be self-sustaining in a much more substantive way than we are now, monetarily, but doing work that is really the mural. I would love to be doing more permanent murals at nursing homes and other bricks and mortar places that serve older adults, as well as schools, probably, because that would make it much more intergenerational. So
cool. Jordan, what do you see?
Well, we're going to have some huge demographic changes in the next 5 years. I think we'll also, I'm curious. It's so hard to answer that question with such turbulent times we live in that I don't know what the next 5 years will bring. I didn't think 5 years ago that this would bring 5 years would bring this. But I think in 5 years we will be talking about ageism more. I have a friend who was actually approached, and this is just facts, I don't care where you land on the political spectrum, but she was approached by the Trump administration to talk about ageism and to do work with them around how to circumnavigate the ageism spectrum and bring more age positivity because that was a big thing in the last election and still is now, as we look at politicians and just public leaders as like, are they too old? What is too old?
Wow.
Like, old, and what is the difference between old and able to do a job? Doesn't they're not the same. So I do think that ageism will become more of a conversation. And in 5 years, I see us being a part of that conversation as we look at how we can, as people and activists, get together to do this work.
Anything else you all want to add?
No, just that people will continue to think. I think that what we've learned in talking so much about ageism, and of course the work that we do, is that once you enlighten someone about what ageism is and where it is, I believe that people begin to see it everywhere. And if you see it everywhere, then you're going to do something about it. You're going to if you're going to start thinking about it, and if you're more aware of it, you're going to think about your own actions and how you think about and talk about age and aging. And so I think that I would just sort of give a call to action, and that people go to our website and check out what we're doing, and perhaps think about doing it themselves or reaching out to us and asking us how we might be able to help them.
Cool. You, Jordan, it's one thing that you can say how people can advocate against ageism.
Be that person that nobody likes, and say something when you hear something or see something. It is probably the most brave thing you could do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hardest thing you could do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've talked to anti-racist and feminist who, like, feminist men and anti-racist white people who have struggled with that work. And it's not something that should be looked light of. It is hard to look at the people that you know and love and correct them on their behavior, on their learned behavior, that you were a part of that conditioning. And so swimming upstream is not easy, but if you do it, you feel better about it. And it's better to say something and educate them, but don't do it. And who better to do it than someone that they know and love, and to do it in a way that's not okay. That's kind of ageist. And then send them the stuff if they're curious, and if they're not, one of the easiest things that I always say is replace that with Black, or replace that with woman, and see how that feels. Like, if you say these old people, like, replace that with, and how does that sound? And that's usually the easiest exercise, I say, to have call out other people and say, would you feel bad? How would you feel if someone said that about you?
Sure.
Adrianne or Meg. I'm sick of these Megs. I mean, personalize it. So that's the first step. Putting murals together is just, all of this work is just so that we can educate more people to do that. And that will work.
Thank you for that. Give your socials, your website, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Am I leaving something out?
Facebook.
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So those, and we're also on YouTube, by the way. And if you just search the Art Against Ageism on any of those, it will come up. So
yeah, we're the only Art Against Ageism out there. And just Google Art Against Ageism, or go to artagainstageism.org.
Okay. Thank you both. This was amazing. And this was long awaited. I've been really, really looking forward to this interview. Listen, you all heard it here. Art Against Ageism. Check them out. All the socials, LinkedIn, check out the website, and check out the Gero-Juice radio show every Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. It is on 1570 Atlanta's Pace Setter. And we will see you all later. And until then, be safe, and I love you.